Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're going to be taking a look at these review copies that I was sent of the Midderlands and the Midderlands Expanded, which are a set of setting books along with bestiaries and other material created for a fictional version of England, essentially. In particular, this one focuses on the Midderlands, which is the Midlands in England, and this is an overview of all of England in more broad detail. So these books were kickstarted fairly recently, but they are now out in PDF form and in print form. I will put links down in the description below, as usual, where you can check out these books for yourself. Let's start with the Midderlands over here. So the book comes with a number of extra things, including this cool little bookmark, which is also a little character sheet. And we also have a map. Now, these books were nominated for, and I believe they won, in fact, for Best Cartography at the most recent ENnie Awards. And it is well deserved. The maps look absolutely fantastic. Let's look at what we have here. So it's very clean, very easy to read, and it's done in a hex map style. So we have hexagons that are all numbered here. And we all have things that are based on the actual geography of the Midlands, where the author is from, but with this weird fantasy twist put on all of the names and places. Let's see what we get inside the book here. Now, like Lamentations of the Flame Princess, these books do a great job with using all of the surfaces. So the end pages are important and are actually used here. So we have a character sheet, which of course you can photocopy. And we have a reference table for all of the monsters, which is a great thing to put on the back of the book. So no flipping through the book, all the stats are right here. And by and large, the construction of this book is really fantastic. It's as good as anything I've seen from LOTFP or from the other recent high quality books like Maze of the Blue Medusa or The Dark of Hot Springs Island. It's very heavy. So the page quality is really, really good. It has an almost glossy feel to it. Everything is Smith sewn, so the binding is really, really excellent. And it even comes with 2 bookmarks. So fantastic build quality. It feels great in your hand. Looking briefly at what we get here, we have the Midderlands with some basic overviews of it. And most of the book is locations in the Midderlands, broken into hamlets, small towns, large towns, points of interest, and rivers, lakes, and forests. We have some oddities, some spells, and a variety of creatures, along with some interesting hex map locations. So the book was primarily created by a number of people, Glynn Seal, Edwin Nagy, and Mark Nolan. Let's look at some of the locations. Now, from what the author says, the real focus here is having high quality and very compact descriptions that give DMs something useful and gameable to run. And I really like that motivation, because that's what I like when I'm running games. I don't want a ton of fluff. I want enough fluff that I get a sense of how this place is supposed to feel, but I want a lot of focus put on useful elements that I can run and that are going to be fun for my players, and making those easy to find and access. So we have a variety of concepts from the Midlands, or from the Midderlands rather. Different races you might find there, government hierarchies, how currency works, equipment and armor, some gods, some heraldry. Since this is done in a feudal style, so you have a feudal system of lords and dukes, and then the whole country is ruled over by the Mad Queen, who I think is something of an analogy to Elizabeth I. And we get into locations here. So the cities take up quite a bit of this. And what I like is that a lot of them have maps done by Dyson Logos, and their descriptions are quite punchy. And as far as I can tell, virtually all of them have something interesting going on. A useful rumor or event that is going to give you something to run off of if players go there. So it's not just full of fluff, there's something interesting going on. Even if it's as simple as this one, this hamlet is the last stop before crossing west into Tealfordshire on the Wattle Road. Its inn is renowned for its house dish, liver and hollowed out potatoes wrapped in tench. So even if you just go there, you have something that you can give to players. Skipping ahead a little bit, we're going to have to move fairly quickly through this because there is a lot of material to cover. We move into larger cities that get larger and larger and larger as we go along until we're into full-on large towns and cities. A great little thing here is that we have these wonderful tabs in the sides of the page done with color. The only other book I've seen this done in so far is Blue Medusa, and this allows you to really quickly reference different parts of the book, right? So all the locations are done in orange over here. We have a variety of oddities, some of which are fairly interesting. They're not quite as gameable, I would say, as some of the stuff that I saw in the Dark of Hot Springs Island, where every item has a weird problem with it, and it's going to have a puzzle element almost, because you have to figure out how to use it properly and how to give it advantage to yourself. But a lot of these are very flavorful, and they really bring out the weirdness of the Midlands. One of the big themes of this book is green. Of course, the book is green. There's like green tints to the page, and the author highly encourages you to add green into your descriptions of almost everything to really bring out that theme. We have a wide variety of fish that you can get here. I thought this was actually really funny, that fish are given such a detailed write-up. So if you really want to get into fishing and exploring the rivers and streams of this area, you'll have plenty of material to work off of. We have some interesting flora. This is really cool because very few books detail the weird plants in any sort of setting. Hot Springs Island does that, of course, and it's really nice to see that this book does that as well. And we get into a large section at the back. All of this blue is creatures of the Midderlands. And there's an interesting way that this is done. So I like how we have the scale of the creatures here. That's nice. When we get into the actual descriptions, we have the type of creature, a Lesser Havenland Night Goblin, along with their basic stats and descriptions about them. It's a fairly lengthy write-up for each of them. And then we have an example of a particular one. So every monster has a NPC version of it, where you have an actual person or a character that is that race, and so you get a sense of what they're like from a specific example. I haven't seen a lot of books do that. I don't know if I've seen any do that, really. And it's a great little trick to throw into your book. And then at the end of each of these monsters, it turns it into a character class, or for most of them anyway. So each of these can be used in multiple ways. One small nitpick, I suppose, that I could point out is that the way that the titles are done, they're all roughly the same size, and it's often very difficult to tell where you are in the monster description in terms of whether you're looking at the NPC or the monster write-up or the character class. It'd be nice if it was more clearly labeled. But that's the basic pattern that we see for all of these. We have a large garden goblin, a horn-chinned half-troll, a green-crested bottlejack, and so on. So they get weirder and weirder. There's definitely a Lovecraftian element because the world beneath the land of the Midlands gets down into the sort of the mythic Underdark, where there's a lot of weirdness and tentacled horrors lurking right beneath this placid England-like country. So a wide variety of types of monsters. And while some of them have some interesting effects, by and large, they didn't stand out to me too much in terms of really original monster design, but they're definitely very effective. And I like the way that they have a character class related to them. So if a player for some reason really falls in love with this type of monster, that they can actually be one. They seem to be mostly derivatives of types of goblins and trolls and things like that, with different twists put on them. And so let's move on to our end book, the end of the book, where we have an adventure in the Midlands. So this is an adventure that is fairly straightforward in the sense that it has a number of encounters and a number of plot scenes that need to occur in a particular order. I'm not really crazy about that myself. It seems very traditional in an adventure path sense, where there's advice for what happens if your players go off the rails and how to get them back on again. My preference really is for adventure-based locations, where you just have a location and things are just happening in there. And all the different elements of it are related, so no matter what players do, they're going to trigger something and they're going to have to deal with it. That's really my preference, so this really isn't the adventure for me. But there is one included if that's something that you want. We have a variety of hex descriptions at the back that go beyond simply the different towns and rivers and so on. And they all are fairly short, one paragraph, but they give you something concrete that you can use. And there's enough of them that simply wandering around the Midlands, you're going to run into these periodically and have something interesting to give your players. There we go. So that's basically what you get in the Midderlands. If you're running a rather low fantasy setting, I think this could be a really good choice. It's definitely, you're in the muck. You're in the grim and gritty landscape with a lot of peasants, a lot of small villages with people dealing with all sorts of horrors and things that are just part of their daily lives. And if you like that sort of thing, this can really fit with that, especially if you're into more historical-ish gaming, due to the fact that this is clearly set in an analog of England. Let's look at the Midderlands Expanded, which was the second book that was kickstarted. And of course, this also comes with a map. And this is of the entire Haven Isles, which is all of England. Here we go. Again, fantastic, not photography, cartography. It's very clear, very easy to read, with lots of detail. All of the different little shires are marked out, the little provinces. That's probably not what they are, I'm sorry. But there's also, you have the roads marked, you have major landmarks, you have cities, you have towns, and almost everything here that is named is going to get a write-up in the book. This is also a hex map, although the hexes are rather faint, especially when you're actually on the land, to the point where they're actually very difficult to see. I would have liked to see them a little bit darker, just so that I wouldn't have run into that problem. So England, by and large, is called Havenland, and we have Olden Whale over here for Wales. And a nice little Easter egg over here is that Ireland, which is called Emerald, is essentially completely covered by the forest of Dolmenwood from the Wormskin zines. That's just what Ireland is. It's Dolmenwood. So if you go over there, you have to whip out your Dolmenwood zines and start, or your Wormskin zines rather, and start running Dolmenwood. I think that is really cool. I love it when authors put little Easter eggs connecting the OSR settings from one to another. Now, the same build quality as the previous book. It's very heavy, very sturdy, very solid. You got your 2 bookmarks. There's our back cover here. And what this does is, as I said, it just goes into the whole implied world that was implied in the Midlands, and it fleshes it out a little bit, or rather a lot. These books are fairly lengthy. They go, a good 200 pages, and it's 200 pages of solid content, of just describing one location after another, giving you something useful to give your players there. So it's a great format for a setting guide. Not a lot of random generators, really, but just lots of content, one thing after another. So we start with forests here, and so all of these different forests are on the map somewhere. Your players wander into them, you can flip right to them, and you get information. We have all of the islands. Going on for quite a while. We have all of the different counties. That's the word I was looking for. Counties and locations. Berkshire, Windsour, Bedshire, Buckshire, and so on. Each of them has its own personality and its own unique types of encounters that you're going to find there. This goes on all throughout this big blue tab here, along with some more excellent little illustrations by Dyson Logos, which fit the tone of the book really, really well. We move into the second section, which is some more oddities. The Book of the Muculus, the Crown of the Staff of Blood. So some powerful magic items for your wizard-type characters. I should say that the system that this is designed for is OD&D or something like Swords and Wizardry. Although, of course, like most OSR stuff, it can be easily adapted for any D&D-like system, including D&D 5e. We have a variety of folks. So this is really great because this is something that was missing from the Midderlands. It has guilds and cults and other factions. So we have things that are going on in the background. And you can give all of these different things motivations so that they have their own objectives and they're moving in the background of your setting. So to keep things non-static. Things like the Black Dagger, the Black Druids, the Cutlass, the Red Lady, and so on. We even have the Secret Knockers. I like this one. Many homes in the large towns of southeastern Havenland have a certain knocker on their front door, While people are aware of them, and many of them think of them with a certain local pride, the truth behind them would keep them awake at night. So it's simply a cabal of magic users planning to take over the country, and their mark is this knocker on their door. So once you become aware of this conspiracy, you can start finding them. A variety of notable NPCs. Again, something that was a bit missing from the previous book, but now we have a lot of great people that we can throw into our setting. Along with some very clean and easily read illustrations that I think capture the setting quite well. We have some new classes. So we have the Witchfinder, which is a type of fighter essentially. The Highland Shaman, going up into the Scotland area of this map. The Dragon Singer, and a new bestiary. So this continues on. It's not quite as large as the one from the previous book, but there's a good number of new monsters in here. And a lot of these seem a bit more flavorful to me. The Branch Spike Golem. They're things that are moving away from the goblin and troll-esque creatures from the previous book. Giant gloom bugs, dog spiders, gloomium dragons. It's great to have new dragons. Too many OSR books don't include dragons or dragon-like creatures. I mean, it's Dungeons and Dragons. I like to see dragons in these books. I'm sorry. Hugging Snow Beast, Leviathan. In general, I just really like the diversity of monsters in this better than the previous one. And the descriptions are a bit shorter and more focused, whereas in the previous one, they just seem to sprawl a bit more. I feel like this is just a little bit more usable. We have some weird tentacled horrors that live deep in the underground, beneath the surface of the setting, and we have some adventures. And I like the adventures in here better than in the Midderlands as well, because like I said, they're adventure locations, which means that they are an interesting place where things are happening, and it's really up to the players to be proactive and figure that stuff out, rather than having the DM sort of, shuttle them along to the next part of the adventure. I really like adventures that are proactive for on the player's part. So it's really great that that is supported here. Actually, a couple of adventures here. And we have adventure hooks. So we have all sorts of interesting, weird events that can be happening throughout this landscape that you can use to pull the players in and to start them off on new adventures. We also have hex locations, similar to what we saw in the previous book. Most of the art is black and white, but it's really good. It really gets that low fantasy feel across very effectively. We have an appendix of some superior beings, including types of godlike creatures that you can throw into your setting. And this is really great. We have a relationship diagram. So we have a sense of how the feudal system works. We have tables of duchesses and dukes of Havenland, and we can kind of see the hierarchy here. So things aren't a clear pyramid of power. Things are a bit more complicated than that. And it's nice to see these diagrams flesh that out. Makes it a lot easier to run. We also have a die drop table right here at the end, along all the way back here on the back, along with some random tables for personalizing your heirlooms and armor. So it's a die drop table essentially for whenever you're near gloomium, which is a material that's maybe radioactive, something like that. It's not good for you, but it can dramatically change events, especially combat, if they are nearby. You can also use it as a D30 table if you want, by just holding a die and dropping it. The back of the page here is used for monster reference. Again, a great idea. I haven't seen books use the back pages for monster reference before, and that is just a really a time-saving device. So there we go. That's the Midlands and the Midderlands and the Midderlands expanded. Both very tight, very well-written setting books with a strong focus on giving you useful material to give to your players. If this is the thing that you're looking for, I will put a link in the description down below where you can check that out. Very high quality books. They look great, they feel great in your hands, and there's a lot of material for you. So if starting out a new campaign in a new large setting can be a bit daunting, and this is a great thing to use or perhaps to steal from to get a lot of gaming ideas. So that's it for the review today. Hope you enjoyed. Next week, hopefully on Wednesday. Things have been kind of hectic around here, but I'm trying to stick to my Wednesday schedule. I will be looking at On the Shoulders of Giants, which is a book by Chance Phillips, who is an up-and-coming star in the OSR, and this is a book written for Lamentations of the Flame Princess with art by Scrap Princess. So that's actually how I heard about it, is because I heard about the art. So we'll be taking a look at that. Thanks as always for watching, and especially thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who are doing a fantastic job keeping the channel going and just being awesome at giving me feedback and support. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and thank you for watching. I'll see all of you guys later.